Hello, everybody out there in YouTube. We are the Middle-Aged Guys, and we're going to be bullshitting about, well, Microsoft and what Phil Spencer has said as his justification for not putting out single-player, story-driven games that are exclusive for his system. All right, buckle your seatbelts, folks. I am the Reverend.
The theme here.
And Grey Mouse 1.
In an interview with The Guardian, Microsoft head honcho, or Microsoft Xbox head honcho, Phil Spencer, sat down and he had an interview with him. And, you know, he was talking about the Scorpio, his plans as far as the games that he's going to be pushing for the Scorpio. And one of the things that he kept on repeating over and over was games as a service, okay? Where he explained that, you know, as far as Microsoft goes, he knows that people are concerned that they don't have exclusives and stuff like that. But right now, their focus really isn't going to be single-player, story-driven games. They want to concentrate on games as a service, how they want to go ahead and make the Xbox One and the games that are available to it through a service akin to what you would think about for movies and TV shows through Netflix, okay? In his words, when asked about, you know, why aren't you going out of your way to, you know, make something like Horizon Zero Dawn or Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, you know, why isn't there anything like that on the Xbox One? His response was the audience for those big story-driven games, I won't say it isn't large, but they're not as consistent. You'll have things like Zelda or Horizon Zero Dawn that'll come out, and they'll do really well, but they don't have the same impact like they used to be because the big service-based games are capturing such a large amount of the audience. Sony's first-party studios do a lot of these games, and they're good at them. But aside from that, it's difficult. They're becoming more rare. It's a difficult business decision for those teams, and you're fighting into more of a headwind. All right? To frame his words in a way that makes it understandable for somebody who's actually looking at the reasons why he would say something like that. In his words, going out of your way and doing single-player, story-driven games, whether they're exclusive to a console or not, is a losing strategy. It's not a money-making strategy. You have a lot more money that's there for multiplayer games that are persistently supported, you know, way past the initial launch. And to that point, he's completely correct. All right. Grand Theft Auto 5 over the last few years, even though it was released over 4 years ago, made more money than it ever did at launch. Okay. Over the last few years. All right. And it did that, you know, over and over and over again. A lot of things with like, I don't know, a lot of the AAA titles that we've seen that have been released out this particular year. For Honor, for as much as, you know, people may have hated how things were set up within its community and the way that the game was balanced and everything else, it still sees a lot of money, even though it has a much smaller player base than what it had initially. Likewise for things like Ghost Recon Wildlands and other games that are put out there. So he's really, I don't know, he's drudging up some things that I know I don't completely agree with. I can see kind of where he's coming from, but there are still some things that I just can't come to terms with as far as the reasons that he's throwing out there, and I don't completely agree with his strategy, or at least what he says his strategy is for the Microsoft Xbox One, and especially for the Project Scorpio coming out. But before I ramble on for much longer and monopolize the time, I'm going to open up the floor, guys. What do you guys think about what Phil Spencer said and how he laid out where the focus is going to be for the Xbox One and the games that they're going to be providing for it?
Grey Mouse, you're the only Xbox One owner in this group here. What are your thoughts about this? Because this affects you as far as your experience or your upcoming experiences with Microsoft and the Xbox One.
I mean, I kind of agree with what Revan was saying earlier, that games, for the most part, like the big games, the Call of Duties, the GTAs, the other big type of multi-plat games, they don't get their money from, well, they get a small part of their money from the initial release, but they get the majority of their money by microtransactions and downloaded content for maps and stuff. I mean, I can see where all that money is coming from. And I guess that knowing that Phil Spencer wants to tap into that quote unquote, untapped resource and turning it into actually, instead of having a game, having a game service rather than having games outright. And the thing is, though, I think he's completely wrong with single-player story-driven games are a thing in the past. I mean, he did mention some of the big hits, this year, Zelda and Zero Dawn. Also, you got Neo coming out, and you also got, I think The Last Guardian came out recently. You got all these single-player story-driven games that are, making money for the publishers. I don't know where he's getting this idea from, that turning gaming into a service is going to be as easy. Basically what I'm saying is I don't think it's going to be as easy as he thinks it is. That I don't think people are going to go for it. I mean, I don't know. I'm just rambling on, and I think that, I feel like it's really messed up that Microsoft is screwing up this bad. I mean, ever since 2013 with the launch of Xbox One, Microsoft really hasn't found its footing this console generation at all. And just when you think that they start canceling titles that people would want to convert over to an Xbox One just for that particular title. Scalebound, I'm looking at you, and then you also titles that they promised as well, like Phantom Dust, they're turning out to be not as extravagant as they initially was told that they were going to be. But I mean, I guess this is the direction that Microsoft is going, and there's no stopping them. Once they made up their mind, they're not going to change it unless, there's another pushback like there was in 2013 and nobody buy their system. So I really don't know what strategy that they're coming out with. And it kind of makes me wonder, since E3 is next month now, kind of makes me wonder that, everybody's like, Microsoft's going to have to hit it out of the park this E3. And with that statement alone, it seems to me like they're not going to do that at all, because, it's just so contradictory with Phil Spencer. He's tweeting one day saying that, believe me, we're putting a lot of money into first party exclusive games for the Xbox One. And the next minute he's talking about this stupid shit. So what you can't have both worlds. You need to decide on what you're doing. Because as far as consumers are, people are like scratching their heads like, what are you doing?
Okay, look. You can have multiplayer games on your console that are still exclusive to your console and still add on to them shits later, just like those other games that were mentioned earlier, like the Call of Duty series, the Grand Theft Auto series. Crimson Sky says hello. Blood Awake says hello. Look, those could have been multiplayer games that could have still had downloadable content or microtransactions put onto them. But guess what? They would have been exclusive only to Xbox. Project Gotham Racing could have been a part of that too. So what I call bullshit on is as simply as this. They could still have first party titles that do that. Regardless if it's first only one player or a multiplayer, experience, you could still have everything on just first party. You can still have that. There's no reason why you still can't have that. That is my biggest gripe about the Xbox One at this time. It's not just, okay, well, we don't want to bring out games like Breath of the Wild or Horizon, which both of those games are really successful, by the way, and those are candidates for Game of the Year, by the way, and one of them sold a fucking console, by the way. So to push that aside and not even look into that as a so-called gamer that he claims that he is, or a business person, I don't understand that.
Well,
but my point is this.
He acknowledges that those games are great, but he's saying, in his opinion, he's saying that those type of games are too far in between to actually put all your eggs into one basket
but
rely solely on that.
But again, I'm going past that for a moment, because what other first-party titles could he have cut? Wait, Fusion Frenzy? You could have come out with another Fusion Frenzy that added more fucking party games down the road for downloadable content or extra content or anything like that. Crimson Skies could have done it. Project Gotham, look at what Mario Kart is doing. Downloadable tracks. Project Gotham could have done that. Fucking extra maps. Crimson Skies could have done that. First party games. That's what they were. So again, there's no reason why you can't still have that. Let's push aside the single player to multiplayer experience. Yes, you should have single player. Yes, you should have multiplayer. But my point is, first freaking party. You can't even look into that and decide that and actually have that. Come on, man. That's ridiculous to me.
I'd have to sit there and say that where my big thing is, it's not that that Phil Spencer is saying that single player story driven games are few and far between. No, in his words, he's like, if I sit there and I look back at that thing, the audience for those big story-driven games, I won't say it isn't as large, but they're not as consistent. He's not saying that they're few and far between. He's saying that they're not as important anymore.
Seriously?
Okay? Yeah, that's what he's saying. Okay.
Because the thing about it is, I look past that because that's so ridiculous.
Well, yeah, and this is the reason why I say this is what he's saying, because in the next very breath he says we'll have things like Zelda or Horizon Zero Dawn that'll come out and they'll do really well, but they don't have the same impact that they used to, because the big service games are capturing such a large amount of the audience. So he's saying straight out they're not as important as they were before.
Wait. That's false. Especially after Zelda's came out.
All right.
You tell me that Zelda has not had any impact? Excuse me?
This is the reason why I have a huge issue with what he said. All right. It's not that he's saying that they're few and far between. No, he's saying straight out that they don't have the same impact that they used to have. All right. And the truth of the matter is that I will wholeheartedly agree. Now there's a certain thing that I have to sit there and I have to remind a lot of folks out there. When you're a first party publisher, when you're somebody who's making one of these machines, whether or not you're Nintendo, Sony, or Microsoft, your biggest challenge from the ground floor is getting those machines into somebody's house. All right. If you do not get the machine into somebody's house, it doesn't matter if you have games as a service or if you do lots of really cool fucking exclusive things for those games. If they don't have the platform in their house, then they're not going to fucking play it. They're not going to be shelling money out toward your platform. Okay, they're not going to be spending money toward your platform. And I think here's the thing. I think Phil Spencer is looking at this as a gamer, and I'm thinking that he's looking at as a businessman. But the thing that he forgets to go ahead and remember is that in order for him to get a larger portion of the market, he has to sit there and make his offering palatable and attractive to somebody who isn't a dedicated gamer. all right, or a lapsed gamer, somebody who went away from gaming for a little while. Okay, right
or
now,
somebody that doesn't have his product just yet. And
yeah, exactly. And right now, the only thing that tells me that if I'm being honest, if somebody sits there and says, all right, can you think of any good reason to go ahead and buy an Xbox One? And whether or not it's an Xbox One S or a Project Scorpio. Right now, my thing would be, well, you have a 4K Blu-ray player that just happens to play games. All right? And that would be the only thing that I could say. All right? Because generally speaking, if I'm thinking about the game experiences that are being offered by Microsoft right now for the Xbox One, I can get the majority of their quote-unquote exclusives on my PC.
It's funny you said that just so happens to play games.
Well, it's true. Because if their whole thing is going to be, all right, we're gonna create a machine in the Project Scorpio that plays multi-platform games, that's going to shit out the best version of every multi-platform game released on console. All right, I'm going to remind everybody again that guess what? If it's multi-console, all right, or it's multi-platform, there's a good chance it's coming to PC also, which I already have. And guess what? I can spend half as much or a quarter of as much as what I think the Xbox Scorpio is going to go ahead and cost, and then I'll be right up to date playing all those games in 4K if I want. Okay? That's...
See, one of the things that I want to point out that, again, that you elaborated on, but that caught me was like, wait a minute. What do you mean those games like Zelda and, Horizon? Wait a minute. Zelda, I said this earlier, that Zelda sold a freaking console.
Yeah.
No matter how you look at that shit, that's what that game did. So to say that those gamers that look, if Zelda did, if Breath of the Wild didn't do well and people didn't buy a Switch for it, I would understand where he was coming from. But that's proof, live proof, right there that fuck, man. That's the part that I didn't understand.
And here's the thing that kills me, all right, is that I'm not even going to sit there and say that Microsoft has to sit there and make games like Horizon Zero Dawn or Breath of the Wild. Guess what? They can make a multiplayer game. They can make a game that's based off of a service, okay? Just make it a unique fucking game that I can't get anyplace else.
That's why I was harping on the first party thing earlier, whether it will be single or multiplayer, because I'm like, wait a second, you're not going to concentrate on the single player. You're not concentrating on the multiplayer ones either that are fucking exclusive to you. And that's what the point that I was saying earlier. I'm like, wait a second. You're saying that you won't do this. Wait, you're not doing what you're saying. You're not even doing that. Otherwise, you would have done it. First party, multiplayer experience. You haven't even done that, Microsoft. You mentioned Grand Theft Auto. Okay, that's fucking multi-console. Again, Call of Duty, same shit. So, wait, what is exclusive to you that's going to be doing this multiplayer experience? And not the single player experience that you basically was like, no, this is not gonna, the players are not. What? No. So what's your excuse? My question is for Phil Spencer, what is your excuse to not having the multiplayer experience first party for your console?
I don't know.
That was my major issue. Regardless of him, saying things about those single player games, I'm like, wait, but you're not even doing it for multiplayer games either. And for those of you who watch this video, don't fucking say Halo. Don't fucking come with me with that. Because I'm going to say this. Phil Spencer say about those other games about the way that, no, Halo is not what it fucking used to be. Single or multiplayer or story.
The problem with Microsoft is that they treat the PC and their console as one.
Oh, one and the same.
One and the same, and that's a problem. I mean, they're coming out with I think Crackdown 4. I think it is.
3.
And is it Crackdown 3?
Mm.
And I don't even know if you may be able to pick it up on Steam.
What?
I don't know if it's console exclusive or not.
You mean Windows 10?
Or Windows 10, yeah. Same difference.
No, Crackdown 3 is coming to PC. Yeah, that's that's been known ever since June of last year.
That's the point I'm making. I mean, you got these that used to be a console exclusive for Microsoft. This Play Everywhere. So that's their whole business thing is that Microsoft. That's their whole business.
Yeah, Play Everywhere, but except for Japan. I've already alluded to that in other videos. The Scorpio will not sell in Japan.
That's the whole business thing with Microsoft is that they're treating PC and console one and the same. And it's hurting them.
No, they're not treating first party as Nintendo and Sony is treating them at this moment. That's what's basically killing them as far as consumers like me that refuse to get one.
I think my troubling thing about this is that if the whole defense that it's just a conspiracy that people are saying that Microsoft doesn't have exclusives, that's a bullshit fanboy defense. All right, that because the thing is that anybody can just sit there and just look down the list and count on their fingers and see how that fucking matches up to see whether or not that's Microsoft doesn't have as many exclusives as other fucking systems that are out there. Even the Switch, as far as what's confirmed for this fucking year. Think about that, folks. And that system has only been out for, 2 months? All right? I think the other thing that I found really, really kind of disturbing, all right? And this is one thing that I don't think anybody else has brought up in any of their conversations online about this or that I've seen in any other YouTube thing. He sat there and he really, really emphasized games as a service, games as a service. Believe me, folks, all right, where the first-party publishers want to go is that they want to turn all of your consoles into set-top boxes where you don't own anything at all. And all you are going to be tethered to it, spending a monthly subscription fee, all right, and you're going to be hoping to God that your internet never fucking goes out to be able to play your games, all right?
And the thing about it is with Microsoft, I will never – wait. So you want me to be tethered to this thing, but you don't have anything to tether me to it on? No. At least Nintendo has weapons in order to tether me to that shit. They can have arguments. Sony is a close second in order to have that argument. Microsoft has none at this point.
Well, it's going to be... I think E3 this year is probably the most important E3 that Microsoft is going to have in recent times. No. Being that they're trying to launch a console late in the year, Christmas time-ish. And, it's only going to win over a couple of, like we said several times on other videos, Microsoft already has certain people already, a core base, which I am one of them, right? But for me to move over to a Scorpio, to me, it's just not, I don't see any benefit in doing that. You know what I mean? There's nothing there that would encourage me to move over.
Well, you're not going to.
Microsoft needs to improve on their business setup is to convince not the core people that's already gotten the system under their TV. They need to talk to YouTube guys, people like the Theme and the Reverend, give them a reason to own your console.
No, they need to talk to people that don't have that console yet.
Well, that's like you and the Reverend.
Why don't you have this? What would we need to do in order for you to get this? But
they're not doing that.
Whoever's answering that has to be reasonable.
They're not doing that, and they will continue not to do that. To me, I think ever since 2013, Microsoft has really lost touch with gamers.
Well, I thought that Spencer was supposed to be the savior for that.
And the thing is, what really ticks people off, or me off for that much, is that after all that shit, moving up until the launch of Microsoft system, Xbox One 2013, I think we mentioned in a couple of videos prior, before, is that they didn't fix it. They didn't fix the problems that gamers had. What they did was they swept that shit up underneath the rug, and then a couple years later, oh, hey, here's a new idea. No, that was an idea you had back in 2012. It's not going to work. People are smarter than that. People, all they got to do is look on the internet. We're not back in the 80s where, word of things are by mouth. You could look, you have one of these, and you could look up any information almost instantly. So, and Microsoft is trying that same shit again. I mean, games with services. How else are they going to do that without turning DRM on again? I'm just saying. It gets me. I'm getting furious about this shit. Now, the more I'm thinking about this shit, the more I'm thinking, you said you want a service. So it's starting to make sense. There's coming a clearer picture now. They're trying this shit again, just in a different form.
The funniest thing is that I said that Microsoft would be the first to try that shit again.
And how else can you explain this shit? It's just it's DRM in a different form. Just like you mentioned a few minutes ago, Reverend. The hope to God, you're trying to make it a set-top box, hoping to God that your internet don't go out, but you still play games.
Box for a console.
Yep. But like I said, to be completely honest, Microsoft is not the only one thinking about this, okay? Because the thing is that the concept is not new. It's not original at all, it's the same type of deal with like DirecTV boxes, fucking Apple TV, and all that other shit that's out there. And the scary part about it is that sort of shit is gaining traction and it has adopters. All right, there are consumers that have jumped into that. Okay, this is not something that I want to do, and it's not a fucking conspiracy. It's a fact. This is where publishers want to go. And when Phil Spencer is sitting there openly going ahead and he's specifically saying games as a service, games as a service, games as a service. This is what we're concentrating on, games as a service. This is what third-party multiplayer publishers are concentrating on, games as a service, where things are fiscally viable, over a very long term. That's what they're going to.
So that's what Scorpio is going to be. It's going to be a streaming service.
No, the box is going to facilitate a lot of that. Okay. All right. No, here's a
Scorpio is going to be a box that's basically going to be a streaming service.
It's definitely going to be, if they sit there and they push the type of marketing model that they want. That's what's going to happen. Okay. And again, it's not just Microsoft's idea. The whole industry is going that way. But, if we jump into that, that's a lot more than what we have time for or what's left on this particular session.
No.
What we really want to know, folks, is what are your thoughts on Phil Spencer's interview with The Guardian and what he said about, the impact of single-player story-driven games, or the fact that in either case, whether or not it's single-player or multiplayer, like we brought up, he still hasn't said anything about exclusives to the Xbox One. Now, are we off our rockers thinking that that's important, or are we spot on? We'd like to know, all right? So, go ahead and leave that in the comments below. While you're at it, mash on that like button, hit subscribe. That always helps us out a lot. But, yeah, this is the sort of thing that, the more I think about it, just like Great Mouse One said, he's getting angry. I'm not getting angry. My head is just starting to hurt, literally thinking about this. Okay. But, that's something that we can go on in a different video. All right. For this particular video, we're going to go ahead and we're going to wrap up all of our thoughts on what Phil Spencer said in his particular interview about single-player story-driven games and all that games as a service bullshit right now. I'm the Reverend.
The theme here.
Gray Mouse 1.
Once again, for the benefits of common sense logic in gaming. Single-player experiences, single-player games, multiplayer games, doesn't really matter. Just be good. And be exclusive to your console, Microsoft. Come on, please. I'm begging you. Give me a reason to buy your fucking console. Other than having the same shit that's on a PC or anywhere else. Please. 100% exclusive. That's all that we ask. And get some single-player action going. Because as you can see, Zelda sold a console. Just saying. Credits.
Oh, and that bullshit re-release from a 2003 game called Phantom Dust, fuck you, okay? That's all I got to say about that. Fuck you.